All
Charnice,
right.
you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in there. I am Charnice Miller. Afternoon, everybody. About myself, by day, I work as a portfolio manager. My asset class is commercial real estate for that. I know people get that confused. And also a personal finance coach on the side. My advocacy for our community is that we get from behind the curve of financial independence so that we can really discover who we are as a people and become more producers as opposed to consumers. And that's when we're really going to see real change for our people. And that's it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and my name is Joel Bernardin. As some folks know me as Debt Free Joel. So I basically started all this in terms of educating from a financial perspective during the 2020 social unrest, and that was my way of trying to give back. And my purpose for this in general, for me doing this, is to help educate minorities, specifically Black people, on how to be better with their finances so that they can be more charitable. That charity part, like I said, is where I always lose people, but that's the whole point. So I'm based out of New York. My family is from Haiti, and I echo exactly what they said before, which is, I really want to help as much as I can, give as much financial information away for free as much as I can to help our own community so that we can help each other.
Thank you. No, I think this is great, and this is why I wanted you guys to introduce yourself and just talk about your goals. It's very important how, I say this all the time, nobody's coming to save us. We all know about the gap in wealth management or gap in wealth, and not the government, not your boss. Nobody's saving us, so we have to save us. And people like you guys doing what you do, posting content and just coming on this kind of webinars to give free knowledge, we definitely appreciate it. So to get started, let's move on and then let's talk about wealth management while we're here today. So what really is wealth management and why should we care about wealth management? Charnice, take that.
I wasn't sure if we're doing a hand raise or we can just jump in there.
Oh yeah, just jump in.
Okay. So I'm just going to give my definition of what I think wealth management is. It's pretty much just the management of your personal finances in the state, right? And why should you care? Why you should care, one, if you care about who we are as a people and what that means for us globally, not even just nationally. If you care about community and building together, I think that focusing on your personal situation and liberating yourself just from the shackles of debt and freeing up your time from having to work a job for your earnings is the reason why you should care about your wealth management. And it's something that's very important for our people at this time to pay attention to. And there's never not a time where it's important to pay attention to it, but especially right now, those are the reasons why I think you should care for yourselves and for us and the broader community.
All right. Thank you. Anyone, Joel?
Yeah, I think wealth management, I agree. I think wealth management, if you want to look at it in the simplest of forms, is, the ability to manage your money. But what that means can branch into so many different things, right? It's a holistic view about how you view your wealth. So whether it be through your credit, whether it be through debt, whether it be through the accumulation of assets, whether it be your income, whether it be how you behaviorally respond around money, all of that is technically wealth management. Why should you care? Because I've never met somebody who's broke who's happy, right? I've never said someone who's who's broke and said, yeah, I love being broke. I've never met that person. I've met people who are content with where they are in life and said, I'm perfectly fine with it. But I've never met someone who's acknowledged that, I'm terrible with money and I'm very happy with that. I've never met that in my life. So I think that's why you should care. It's one of those things. It's one of those topics, in my personal opinion, that they tell you never to talk about, right? The three things they say never to talk about at the dinner table is sex, religion, politics. Number 4 is money. And I think the fourth one, we got to do more of that, right? We have to talk about money. We have to make it normal in our community. And that's why I think we should care, because if there's certain things that Charnice knows or Isa knows that I don't, we should be sharing that within our community, and we should be pulling each other up, right? It's not only that you should care about your own money, you should care about the other person as well, so that we're pulling each other up as one community.
Yeah, I agree with everything they said. Wealth management is basically it's the highest level of financial planning, and it usually includes financial advice, tax guidance, estate planning, and even like some legal advice thrown in there. And why should you care? I think coronavirus answered that question for us. When coronavirus hit and a lot of people were not paying attention to their finances, they were running around like chickens with their head cut off when coronavirus hit and they didn't know what to do next. So
Yeah, I think that's a great point you made with the coronavirus. A lot of things have changed. Like a lot. I think Joe actually was when I posted this on Instagram about how I forgot the percentage of people that left their job this year, and the world is changing. People are understanding finance more, but thanks to people like you guys that are posting this content and just sharing the information. And like Joe said, nobody's happy being broke. I think
I've never seen it, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. There are people. The happiness has nothing to do with money, right? Happiness is your true wealth. Let me be very clear with that. But I've never met someone who has been in a position where money is a very severe problem and they're happy about that situation. I've never met a person who's like that. And whenever someone comes to you and tells you, oh, I don't care about money, they're lying. My personal opinion, they're lying, because you always care about money. Unfortunately, it's the one thing that you use every day that we all don't talk about. And it's like, we should talk about it more and we should care about it, because I think a lot of us want to leave our kids, we want to leave our families, a better stepping stone than what we got. And that, I think, is the true accumulation of wealth over time.
That's key. That's key. People always say, I've seen it several times about, you don't have to come from a wealthy family, but a wealthy family can come from you. And it starts with now us, talking about this thing, making normalized to talk about financial literacy. There's different ways. And that's what I think is amazing about wealth management, is there's different ways to do it. It's just getting it together, understanding what works for you, or just understanding how money works in general. And I think we'll get to some of those things later on. But so move on to the next question for people that are just joining us. This is a panel discussion about wealth management. We have some questions that have been sent to us by members. We're just gonna go through these questions for now, and then if you guys have any questions or anything you want to add, any statement, addition, suggestion, you can either post it in the chat, or when we go through these questions, then we can you can raise your hand and you can come up and just have anything you have to say. So we'll move on through these questions. Another question we've got is, what are key steps to obtaining financial liberation? And so if you want to get us started with this one.
Sure. What are key steps? Well, I would say always work on your foundation. Make sure your foundation is in good order, because a lot of times people want to skip and say, I want to make $1 million. I want to grow my money. I want to invest in stocks. I want to get into real estate. But your foundation is not even in good order. Remember, you can live too long, which will impact your finances. You could die too early, which is going to impact your family's finances, or you could get sick in between. You have something in place to make sure that your foundation is in good order if any of those situations happen. So I would say there's some cornerstones that you have to look at first. You want to make sure you're protected. And then after you're protected, that's when you want to start thinking about growing your money. People do it backward. They want to grow their money first before thinking about protection. Then you want to make sure whatever vehicle you're looking to put your money in, you want to make sure it's safe. And then you can start looking into tax advantages, because it's not about how much money you make at the end of the day, it's about how much you keep. And taxes is like one of the biggest things that cut into your finances, where you could build a significant amount of wealth and then the taxes come in and a big chunk of that is cut off. So I would say focus on the foundation first and then look into those different cornerstones when it comes to building your finances.
And that's champs. I love that, especially with the taxes. A lot of people do investment, like for example on Robinhood, and buy stocks, and then withdrawing their money, and then don't know there's, taxes coming, that's gonna come, So I think that's why this is very important. Wealth management, understanding the whole concept, and like you said, just knowing your the foundations, the right things, So yeah, no, I think that's really, and that's great. Chinese, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to pick up on what Isa was saying about building the foundation. When I think about financial liberation or independence or freedom, there are steps before you can really get to the independence that you're looking for. And I think she touched on a few of them, which was protection and things like that. But what I offer people, usually to lay the foundation before you start building your financial skyscraper, is like 6 steps. So the first step is making sure that you have cash flow. And make sure, you guys get your pens out. I hope you are taking notes for this, because cash flow is the first thing that you want to make sure you have. You have to be earning some sort of income or not earning it. Maybe you're getting alimony or, wherever you get your financial resources from, you're going to need that to even begin your financial journey. Your second step is going to be having a savings or an emergency fund or an FU fund. And most financial advisors, they advise 3 to 6 months. So you need 36 months in case emergencies come up. The next step is going to be your debt management. So you're going to be tackling any debt that you have out there, whether you bought a house, you bought a car, you have credit cards, whatever it is, you want to work on getting your debt down so that your net worth can increase. The next step is what Isa mentioned, is the protection. So now that you've built up on the cash flow, you've got your emergency fund set, and you've tackled your debt, then you want to talk about protecting your wealth, which you've amassed thus far. And then after that, you're in the wealth building phase, right? So now you're thinking about investing. Now, at this point, if you're not as savvy with investing, you may, if you've done the first few steps right, want to look into hiring a professional, someone who can help you from this point with your asset allocation so that you can grow. And then after that, we're talking about preservation, right? So this is the taxes portion. How do you keep most of the money that you built? And then beyond that, I still think that that's good in the framework of looking at a retirement type of situation or liberation, but I'm an advocacy for getting to retirement as early as you can. And I think that what that means is your personal resources fund your lifestyle, right? So if you've done these steps already, now you can look for investing aggressively, not just investing long-term, but investing so that you have a number of what your monthly expenses are, and your resources are able to bring you exactly what that is. So that way you can make different decisions about your life, different choices. Do you want to work? Do you not want to work? Do you want to get into other things? And that's what liberation means to me. And I think that's the next phase, what I want to pour into the next generation. We've got how we get to make it to retirement. How do we get to independence prior to that? And that's my answer.
Yeah, I definitely was taking notes. That's I think that's really great. Those steps you said, I think that should be like a whole topic on its own. But but what you say is definitely important. The cash flow management, the emergency funds, and just kind of similar to what I was saying too with the foundation. You need to build a house. You have a foundation first, and it goes with, and I definitely agree with what you said at the hand with investing aggressively at the hand. I think what most of us do is you hear about something in the news, crypto, whatever, buy Tesla, buy this, and people just dump all their money in it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if the foundation is, and this is why people regret, or people have a heart attack when this weekend, for example, when the market was down, if the foundation is set right, I hardly check my stock market or anything I'm invested in, because I know, what, even if I lose my money in the market, I know, I'm not I will still be able to pay my mortgage. At least I still have a house. I think that's the most basic thing, and I can still eat. So I agree with that, and thanks for sharing those, Charlene and Isa. And we just move to the next question. And once again, guys, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat, or at the end of these questions, we're going through questions that have been asked by members. Then we can get to the questions you guys might have at the end. The next question we have is kind of tying to what we just talked about, and I will let Joe take this. So someone asks, how do we keep things in perspective when it comes to money? I'm guessing they probably mean like, how do you put everything together? Like, how do you grow your money? And what advices do you have for people in this sense?
I'm a big proponent on goals. when it comes to money, because what we're saying now sounds really good until you get hit with a bill tomorrow. Right. And then you want to be aggressive with your money. You want to flip your money overnight. Your goals allow you to center your life around what you want your money to do. Right. So a goal for me is not to be rich tomorrow. Right. It's to be a millionaire, but I don't got to be a millionaire tomorrow. Right. I can be a millionaire 5 years from now, 10 years from now, to, buy a house if I want to, as much as I have to take on debt. If I do, try to take as little as I need to be, put goals into perspectives to, if I have kids, to allow my kids to go to school for free. And when you put things into perspective like that, if you write your goals down and you review them, it keeps things into perspective. You mentioned earlier, sometimes you don't even know what the stock market does. I can't tell you anything about the stock market today, or not today, but like, let's say on Friday of last week, I have no idea. Oh, it was down. Okay. I go about my business because my financial goals aren't goals for tomorrow, right? My financial goals are 7, 10, 20 years from now. Yeah. So you put yourself in a position to be able to get to that. And that's how you keep things into perspective. I think the other thing as well is be careful who you surround yourself with as it pertains to your money goals. Not everyone is going to have the same goals as you or the same perspectives as you. You're going to be on a budget. You're trying to get your money right. And everybody wants to go out and blow a check. Right? Doesn't mean you don't love them. Doesn't mean those are not your friends, but you want to be careful, right? The people around you, you want to have people or certain influencers around you who can keep you on that track. Doesn't mean you want to be home miserable all day long either, but you want to make sure that you're not testing yourself and putting yourself in a position that can jeopardize your goals, right? Remember, your goals are what's going to lead you forward. Your plan to get there is the engine to get there, right? So that's my opinion when it comes to it. Write down your money goals. A lot of people don't write. Everybody's money goal, I want to be wealthy. Well, that's not enough, right? You got to be specific, right? You need to really specify exactly what you want and make sure it's realistic, right? I forgot the HR concept on goals. Does anybody remember what that was? There's
the SMART goals.
Yes, right. Specified, measure it, attainable, realistic, and you have to have like a time frame, right? You actually need to create a SMART goal around your money goals so that you can achieve them. So that's what I think when it comes to perspectives on money.
Well, can I add to that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add to that. I love what he said about making the goals and stuff. And a lot of times people don't even make a goal because we have a lot of like conditioning growing up when it comes to money, the way that we think about money, our environment conditions the way that we think about it. Like, have you ever heard money is the root of all evil, or money doesn't grow on trees, or you think I'm made of money? A lot of that stuff affects you in your relationship with money. So a lot of times when we're telling people write down these goals, they don't even really believe that it's attainable for them. So I would say, like, you really have to dismantle your subconscious way of thinking about money, figure out what's your relationship with money. Like, what's the thoughts that come in your head when you think about money? Oh, I don't deserve it, or I'm not made of money. And then dismantle that before you could even sit down and put a plan like that together.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, same. I'm guessing I may as well just add on too, since we're on that topic. But I think what's important is to know your why. Know your why, know your number. And so that's the same thing as planning. So that can keep you from being sold to the highest bidder, and you being a slave to consumerism. Each and every time you know why you're doing something, you make a plan and you consistently revisit that plan. And that's helping you keep things in perspective, keep money in its place, because money is a tool. Money is the tool that is aiding you on your more meaningful pursuits in life. Money isn't the goal. It is the goal that is helping you get to your goal. And I think so many people have money as the goal. And as long as you have money as the goal, you never have a sight beyond that. And so you bring money outside of that, you have a goal, and money is assisting you to pursuing that goal that you have. So know why you're doing it, why you want to be financially independent. To Joelle's point earlier about charity. You can't give to charity if you're constantly worried about a financial goal. So if their goal is to give back, if your goal is to build community, if your goal is to just not work and not care about money, You know what I mean? How do you get there?
That's
You
true.
can be at a place where you don't have to care about money, but you have to work the plan. You have to have the plan. You have to know your why, and you have to focus. And money can't be the focus. Otherwise, you'll always be a slave to it.
That's so true. I'm a Jay-Z fan. He said, I can't help the poor if I'm one of them. So that, just like what you say, the goal doesn't have to be like you want to have money, but if your goal is to, do charity, if your goal is to, not work forever, then it's time. And like you said earlier, Chinese, you're a proponent of early retirement. I mean, I think that's most of our goals. I think that's my goal. And this is why money is important, but money shouldn't be something we're not talking about, but just we have to know why we're talking about it, and we have to know our whys. I think that's very important, and the goals. So we're gonna move on to the next question that we've been asked, and I think I know someone that would love to take this question without saying names. What are some unique strategies to help building credit? Isa,
To
okay, yeah,
help build credit.
I know you know.
So, well, one thing I want to say is people always like the first thing in their head is like, I want to bring my score up, like I want to build my credit. But before you could even do that, before you think of that, the first thing you should be doing is thinking of how to get rid of all the negative items that's reporting on your credit report. So I always like to start with my clients there. First, you want to remove that, because once that's gone, the building the credit part is easy. It's really the negative remarks that's reporting on your report that's holding your score down. So you could build your credit score and not pay attention to none of that negative stuff that's on there, but you'll find that it's going to start to come back down. So I would say that's the first thing is get rid of all of the negative remarks that's on there. Then prep your report for dispute. And I did a whole Zoom on that, so I'm not going to get into all of that, but you want to prep your report for disputing. It's like a report card that you get in school. It has to look good. They look for certain things. So you want to prep it and then send it out for dispute and get those negative items taken off of there. Then the building the credit part is easy. You just get a couple of trade lines. You get a couple of like alternative consumer reporting agencies, and they'll report every time you make your payments. And that part is easy. But it's the prepping your report first before you go to that stage. That's the part that I would say you should focus on first.
So how do we do that? I mean, can individuals? I know you did that session with us last year, and it's on our YouTube page if anybody wants to check it out. But how do you? Is that something people can do on their own, like getting those negative out, or they need to consult with someone like you to do that for them?
I mean, the first thing you could do is look for like inaccurate information that's on your report. Like maybe you have misspelled names on there. Maybe they have a wrong social security number on there, or you have like 10 different addresses. You want to look for all of those inaccurate stuff that's on there and get that removed. If you have like 3 different jobs reporting on there, you want to take that off of there because it looks like you're unstable, or jumping from job to job to job. So you want to remove it and then just have your most recent job on there. There's many different strategies, but really it's just about making your report card look good so that when you send it into the teacher, you get a good grade on it. So that's pretty much the concept of it. So I would say start there. Just that's something that anybody can do. Call up the credit bureaus, get those negative items or inaccuracies off of there, and then just start prepping it for the dispute process.
Okay, sounds good. Chinese, do you have anything you would like to add to that question?
Yeah, I think it's really good, as most people don't know that your credit report and your credit score aren't always on the same report. Sometimes people only pull a report, and sometimes people actually pull a score. And so what's on your credit report does matter. And even if you are debt-free like Joelle and you're not trying to buy something, people will still pull a report to try to judge your character. These are landlords. These can be employers. In any phase of your life, someone can pull a report on you. So you do want to make sure that your report shows you as someone who's fiscally responsible. But it also depends on where you are on your credit journey for building help. Some people could be in the very beginning and don't have any credit and want to know what they need to do or how can they begin credit and having their credit history. And so I guess it just depends. So speaking from that, is because I'm an advocate for credit cards, I always will be, but not in a way that where I'm an advocate for debt. I don't think I'm telling people to get into debt. Credit cards to me is a very quick way that you can grow a score if you're looking to move your score pretty quickly, as opposed to doing just on-time payments on an installment debt or of some kind, because that's really what it is. But you can get an unsecured credit card if you don't have any credit, to build your credit history, start there and go from there. But I'm always going to be the biggest advocate of, once you've completed your foundational work and you've proven that you can maintain a budget and you've cleared your debt, that you can start kind of using some of these credit card hacks to really start building your score and growing your score if you have use for your score. So that goes back to knowing your why. You know what I mean? You need a good credit score if you're trying to acquire something with debt.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're the cash buyer and you got hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting around where you can go buy a house cash, that's great. You know what I mean? It's absolutely fantastic if you want to use your cash in that way. Or do you want to save your cash, mortgage the house maybe, and then invest a lot of that money to see if you can double and triple your worth? It really depends on you and your tolerance for managing risk and things like that, and what you want to do, with your cash. So it's going to be different for everybody, but there are different tips and tricks that you can use to grow your credit if you're going to be using your credit score for whatever reason. But to Ice's point, you do want to have a good report that's just the systems that were created here before us. And I just learned something recently. So let me give you a little background of why I would rather have a credit report as opposed to not. So before the credit bureaus were created, prior to 1950, you would walk into a bank and bankers would just give you a loan based off a gut feeling.
Oh, that's nice.
About you. You go in and you plead your case for why you need money, and they just get to determine whether they would lend it to you or not.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine where we would be if that was still the case.
Oh yeah.
So now that you actually have a tool where you can prove yourself, then make sure you're showing yourself in the best light. Mm-hmm. As opposed to you walking in some bank and telling somebody, I need a loan, can you give me a loan? You have a proven record that you deserve, and they're going to have to really, they can't deny you at that point. And so that's why you want to pay attention to your credit. And then, behind the scenes, we can really dig into individuals, what you need to do to help build your credit. But start, if you don't have any credit, and to Ice's point, work on your credit report and then figure out how to use some creative tips and hacks to keep a net score high and healthy.
All right. Yeah, that's a great point. Interesting. You said during the conference that we did in October, one of the panelists for the real estate, Menard, he actually did mention how he doesn't have a good credit. And I think after the conference, some people came on to me and they went going to ask him, but they didn't ask him. But like, that's a bad thing. Why would you have bad credit? Why does he not fix his credit? But to your point, you have to know your why. He's doing real estate, and the way, because you can do real estate different ways. He does it with his partner, and his partner's job is to get the finance. So that's not his job. His job is more of doing the work, the contracting job, and renovation. So the man doesn't really need to go to the bank and ask for money because he's not the one in the finance department. Although he did say his goal next year is to build his credit up, but a lot of people question that. But it's not really about what people are doing. It's not about everybody say you must have this. If your goal, if your business, anything you're doing require credit, of course you should get it straight,
Right.
But I think I like, what you said about that. Like, it's all about the goal and, the whys. And I think it always goes down to that. Yeah. Joe, do you have anything to add to this, or you want to just move on?
No, I think they hit the nail on the head. I think the one thing is, don't be afraid of the score either, right? Mm-hmm. I have a lot of conversations with people where they're freaking out about their credit score because it dropped, 10 points, and they're freaking out about this. And I usually ask them, similar to what Charnice was just saying, what are you going to use it for? Like, are you going to buy a car, a house, or something immediate right now? Like, are you looking for a new job? Are you looking for, like, what do you need that score for right now? And when you take them back and say, all right, you don't need the score right now for anything. If you're going to purchase something 12 months from now or 2 years from now, you got time. right? Don't be afraid of the score, no matter what it is. It's going to fluctuate. Like I said, I'm 100% debt free, and my score is still pretty high. But my credit score, I joke you guys not. I was going to say another word, but this is going to be recorded, so I don't want to want to say the wrong thing, right? But my score fluctuates, and I have no debt. My credit lines don't get extended. So where's the number? They just decide based on the algorithm that this is going to go up by 5 points, and randomly it goes down by 10 points. If you're not going to use it for anything immediately right now, don't freak out about it. If you are, then get a professional, educate yourself on it, right? Make sure it's not the boogeyman, right? Educate yourself on credit. And then understand that there's differences between credit scores and a credit report. Totally agree on that. But don't be afraid of the score. It's not some embarrassing thing. Like, I think in our community in particular, people put way too much weight on it. It is important, and I think you should maintain it, but don't feel like you need to be embarrassed about it and you're scared to check it and all this kind of stuff. Look at it in the face and then develop a way to get it better. But don't be afraid of it.
Yep. And if you need help, we have Isa. She's always available. She can fix your credit for you, right, Isa? All right. So this is kind of tying into the fixing credit, debt management. It was this person asking some helpful tips for debt management, but I will even ask you guys in general, what's debt management and what will you advise people on how to handle, debt management? Maybe Joe can take this, start with Joe.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks know my opinion when it comes to debt. And I do understand the usefulness about it. I'm not going to be facetious on it. Jokes is jokes, but I think everybody understands where I stand on this. I stand on the side of I stay away from it as much as possible because it has hurt our community. It has hurt our people. And then when you really drill down to it, the Black women get hit the worst when it comes to, finances and debt management and just dealing with it. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you can use debt to your advantage, but many people don't. So in my instance, only take on debt if you absolutely need to. So, for example, if you need a new car, can you pay for it? Can you pay for a used car by cash and then fix it as you go? Do you need to buy the $50,000 Lexus or Audi tomorrow? Maybe not, right? You don't need that if you need to take on debt. If you're trying to buy a house, you're probably going to need to take on a mortgage, but does it need to be a mortgage that's going to have you in debt for the next 30 years where you can't afford the house? Debt management is going to be very specific to everybody. So I don't want to necessarily offend anybody or anything like that. My opinion is this. What would you do if you had no debt? I asked that rhetorically, but I want there's 37 people on this call. What would you do if you had zero debt? Right? If you didn't have to make the credit card payment, you didn't have to make the mortgage payment, you didn't have to make the student loan payment, you didn't have to make the car payment, you didn't have to go pay for all those medical bills, you didn't have to pay back that loan that you took out. What could you do with that cash? That's my opinion. So you can use debt to grow your wealth. You can use debt to manage your wealth. But always ask yourself, do I need this debt? Right? We just had a discussion about credit. Credit in the English language is synonymous with debt. However, you don't have to go into debt to get a high credit score, as Sharnice was explaining to you. You can use your credit card and pay it off every month, and you're going to build your credit. Does not necessarily mean you have to stay in debt, right? You don't have to do that. So there's different ways. And if anybody has questions, obviously you can reach out. There's the avalanche method. There's certain methods that you can use to get out of debt, obviously. But the big thing that I would say, and I'm interested in y'all opinion, what would you do if you didn't have any debt? And if you can answer that question, then you understand why I push for people to be debt free.
Yeah, someone said they'll be in Bahamas sipping from umbrella drink. That sounds like a good plan. Actually, so maybe it's just me. I think sometimes we don't even understand some of these things that we do is considered debt. I think for most people, credit card, car notes, mortgage have become a way of life. Like it's almost like, oh, this is what we have to do. It's not like, I don't know, maybe people, maybe I don't think you guys understand what I'm trying to say, but maybe people don't even really understand debt.
Oh, Kamala Harris had a great quote during the presidential elections, or when she was debating for the vice presidency. She said, "Debt is when somebody owes somebody money." Okay, that's what that is. That's debt. If you owe somebody money, that's debt. Now, whether or not they charge you interest is a whole nother story. But if you owe somebody money, that's debt, right? So that's how you look at it. And if every single month you're paying a bunch of people you don't like for something you bought that you can't remember, then that's where debt management starts to kick in, right? That's where you start to manage your debt. If you're going to take on debt, ensure that it's like the least amount that you need to take on so you can accomplish your goal. Ask yourself, how many of the folks on this call have student loan debt?
Mm.
How many folks in here have credit card debt? And the credit card debt is one of those that where you got to be very careful, because that's the one that can really put you in a hole, because sometimes you forget what you bought. Yeah. Every other type of debt you can point to. I can point to my college degree, right? I can point to it and say, I got that. I can point to my house and say, this is my mortgage. I can point to my car and I can say that that's my car loan. But when you look at your credit card, it's a bunch of crap around your house. You forgot you bought it. You don't even know when you bought it, and it just compounds, right? So that's debt management, understanding why you're in debt, using it appropriately. But, in my opinion, try not to have it take over your life, because it could really, stop you from accumulating that wealth.
Well, I think Amazon Prime didn't make that easier also.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave you guys with this. Have you noticed when you go shopping, most places are now not even taking cash? Okay, here's an experiment. Okay, the next time you guys go out and you frequent a bar, brunch, right, whatever it is, if you're anything like me, just sit back and look at the register, or look at when the waitress comes around, the waiter comes around. How many people put their card down and not cash? It's a lot easier to use the card because you don't feel the pain.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to get into debt because you don't feel the pain. You see what I'm saying? That's where, like, we were joking, me and Sharnice, before this, that's where that you have to really understand what you're using that debt for and why you're doing it. If you use debt for leisure, it could really blow up in your face.
Yeah, and just having a plan also, even if you know what you're using it for, just knowing, okay, I'm getting to this debt because I need this. But like student loans, you're going to school, you need that, then okay, this is a plan, this is what I'm gonna do with it. So I think that's very helpful. In interest of time, we'll just go to the next question, because I still want to open the floor for people that didn't get to send questions in. So we'll just go through these other questions that we've got throughout the week. And this is talking about investment. How do I go about figuring out the right investment tools and strategies? I'm not Chinese. I'm gonna start off with this one.
Yeah, sure. So assuming that you've laid your foundation, and you've maintained a budget, and you've proven yourself to be fiscally responsible, now you're ready to really look into investments. And don't get me wrong, during your time building your foundation, you should be investing in some sort of retirement account anyway. You should always be doing some kind of investing. But when you have now, I would say, excess income, to really start taking more risk as it pertains to investing, I think that's what this question is asking in terms of tools and strategies. For the average person, my advice is always going to say, one, arm yourself with information. Learn as much as you can about different investments and different investment strategies, so you're not getting spent. You know what I mean? Because my top advice is going to be, get a professional. If you don't work in this market, especially when we're talking about investing in the market. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that you can invest, and everybody should have a well-diversified portfolio in and out of the stock market. You know what I mean? Whether you're cash flow investing, long-term investing, whatever it is, the first thing you need to do is educate yourself. You shouldn't be putting your money into anything that you don't understand, period. And so I think that people are so anxious to invest money because they want to flip money, they want to double, they want to get this and they want to do that. And you start, okay, well, tell me a little bit about this investment. And it's crickets. You know what I mean? Do your homework.
Right.
Educate yourself about investments. And then if you realize that you aren't the expert, you don't know how to read a balance sheet, you don't know how to read an income statement, if the average person doesn't. So you're not analyzing companies and being able to determine where to put your money. You know, you're not that person. So you just focus on your personal financial statement, getting your foundation right. This is how much I have to invest. Now let me, one, learn what I have to do and get some help. You know, build a relationship with a professional that I can trust who can help me invest my money in the right way so that I'm not losing out. And that's like the biggest advice that I would have for anybody or the average person at this stage of the game. Don't try to go in alone. Definitely do your own reading, listen to the podcast, get the books. That's your investment in yourself. Invest in the knowledge that you have around this, then invest your money.
Right, I know that's great. I think the part of investing in information, like just like I said, you know, for him, everybody says ROI means return on investment, but for him, it's return on information. It's how much information you're consuming, how much. There's a lot of information out there these days. But for me, I think that's another reason why we have to be careful. And I agree with you, Chinese. You need to still seek some professionals that because there's a lot of information on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere, social media. Not that they're not good information, but it's still good to make sure you get the right information and know who to trust, pretty much. And that's why these professionals come in, and you know, and luckily we have a community like this where we have different experts in different field. You can reach out to any of these guys, and they can guide you the right way, so you don't just fall into any information you're seeing or you're consuming.
Yeah. And I'm not telling you don't try. You can stomach the risk, go ahead. You know, I have these Robinhood investors that talk to me all the time. Hey, what about Roblox? I hear Roblox is hot, and then they don't even know how to execute the trade. So it's like, you know, get you some help. You really, really don't know what you're doing. You're excited, you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna tell you you should not do it. But I would rather have a well-informed conversation before I give you a green light. And if you aren't well-informed, what you want me to say? Do it.
I'm not gonna, yeah, I agree with her. I'm not gonna confirm your emotion, right? That's not my job. My job isn't to confirm what you feel really, really good about. No, my job is to be objective with you as we discuss your investments. And the other thing I would add as well is to know yourself in terms of your risk tolerance.
Yes.
The majority of people are risk averse. What that means is that we feel more pain losing money than we feel gain from making money, right? So that means if you made $2 on an investment, you feel good. If you lost $2 on the investment, you feel really bad. It hurts you twice as much. So if you're jumping in and out of stocks, you know, and having fun and all this kind of stuff, understand that if everybody's going up, if every stock you're choosing is going up, it feels fantastic. You notice how quiet it was in February of this year when people started losing money? Because everybody lost money at the same time, and it hurt every single person at that point. Right. So you got to know yourself, right? If you're the type of person who doesn't like to lose money, that likes to get a good night's sleep, i.e. like me, understand your risk tolerance, right? You know, you can still invest in individual securities. You can use education to do so, but understand that if you're playing the long-term game, you don't necessarily have to sit there all day long and put yourself in a position where you're going to feel uncomfortable.
Right, and that's where the what I said talked about earlier about the foundation. I think that was a very great point from the beginning of this discussion. I think that's where that really matters, because once your foundation is set, you have things in place, you know, then, you know, the money you invest in, at least to begin with, like Chinese said, is just, you know, before you get into aggressive investment, just, you know, money you can afford to lose, to save. Then once you have everything set, you have your emergency funds all in place, then there's nothing wrong with getting aggressive with the right information, of course. And don't just throw your money, you know, anywhere without getting the right information about it.
And there's one more thing I want to add that I learned earlier on when you're talking about getting into investments, especially when you don't know enough, you aren't smart enough in this area, is contracts. if you're going to be investing with anybody, always make sure that you have a contract. Doesn't matter if it's a professional consultant or advisor. There's people I've gotten into investments in real estate, where people, they're contractors, they flip. I'm not a flipper, so I have money. I'll give you my money to do what you need to do, and you give me a return. That's an easy way for me to get a return on my money, and I haven't done anything. But you have to make sure that you're not out here getting screwed. So you can have the best of conversations at happy hour with people about how they're about to take your money and bring you back whatever. As long as you get a contract written up, get some things in writing so you can feel safe and secure about what your return is supposed to be, then you can go ahead and take a little bit more risk. And so I learned that lesson the hard way. So always have a contract when you're about to invest your money with other people, even professionals.
Right. So when you say, I'm just going to ask, when you say contract, so, I mean, obviously I know what contract is, but do you get a lawyer involved, or just draft a contract and have each party sign? Just, I don't know that's a stupid question, but I'm just kind of curious about that.
No, you don't have to have a lawyer involved. Obviously, having a lawyer involved will help you to make sure that you cover every single ground and every single, but if you're clear about what you're giving and what you're supposed to get back at what time, you can draft up something, have both of you guys sign it and get it notarized. You know what I mean? Something you can take to court to say we had an agreement. So you're not getting screwed out of your money. But if you want to go out and just get into some, some other strategies about investing, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'm always going to advocate for that. You know what I mean? Just making sure you protect yourself when you get into situations like that with people.
Right. Someone's just sending this question. I was going to wait to the end, but I'm just going to actually, since we're talking about it, just say, what are some recommended advice or platforms to seek help from?
For investments?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, you can use platforms and stuff like that. My only concern is that if your platforms consist of social media, you're gonna have a problem, right? Because social media is one of those things where it's really easy to fake it till you make it. Extremely easy to do that, right? I can run out here and be like, yeah, I'm multi-millions, and yeah, I have no idea if I'm talking about it, right? So I think the first thing is, if I wouldn't necessarily look at the platforms, I would look at the education, right? There are many people who wrote books on how to invest. There are many people who have taken the time to articulate, they have track records, right? A track record is the representation of your performance over a long period of time, not 1 year, 10, 15, 20 years, for example. The book I always recommend to people is A Random Walk Down Wall Street. That's one of the best books that I can see that's in terms of finance, in terms of investing. My background is, at least the last designation that I have, is a chartered financial analyst, right? That's the closest thing you can get to a PhD in finance in a practical sense. That book is the closest thing I've seen to the education I got from that, right? From the MBA in finance. That's the closest thing, and it tells you the truth. So I wouldn't necessarily say a platform. I would say look for education, and don't look for the education that's trying to entertain you. There's no such thing as a guaranteed investment. There's no such thing as an investment that you're always going to make money on. If someone tells you that, run for your life, because every investment has risks, as you bring up on the screen. So that's what I would say. I'm not sure if you guys know, ISA or Shanice, any specific platforms, but for me, I would say not necessarily the platforms. Look for the books. The name of the book again is A Random Walk Down Wall Street.
Yes, since you're recommending books, I would highly recommend Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game. It covers like all aspects of finances. So if you really want to learn about like different tools, no matter your income level, definitely look through that book. I'll put it in the chat too.
Yeah,
so if we're talking about information and educating yourself on how to invest, there are some pretty good reputable websites that I think cut to the basics pretty good. I know investopedia.com is a good one that I've used in the past, invest.org, obliviousinvestor.com. If you're the website searcher and you're not really a reader, you can go to those websites and just educate yourself on investing. And I also think by platforms, you may mean platforms that to use to do your own investing. Like I mentioned, the app Robinhood, or what's the other one that people are trading on? Like E-Trade and
Fidelity, Merrill Lynch.
Yeah, as long as they're secured, that's
Yeah,
I'm not going to discourage you from trying to do it. I'm just going to say I'm big on the education. Make sure that you know what you're doing. If you got the discretionary income to invest, because sometimes the biggest lessons is just doing it, and understanding that you can lose and being okay with that. So to Joelle's point about your risk tolerance, some financial advice and information out there, I feel like sometimes can be a little bit outdated. Not that they do not work, but I do think there is some room for some more advanced and modern technologies and strategies around investing and wealth building. And I think that there are people who are successful at it. It's not for everybody. That's why knowing thyself is important, knowing your risk tolerance, your fiscal responsibility and management. I mean, and most of you deep down know if you're playing around with your money, or if you're really serious. If you got into the point where you have a certain amount set aside every single month for investing, go ahead and play. That's the money that you have allocated. Everything else is running off systems. You know what I mean? So now you got a certain percentage, like this is my investment money. This month, I am going to try and trade on this platform and do this and see how this works. Really, and not attach a lot of feelings to it. I'm never going to discourage someone from learning, because you can be successful, but if you BSing or not, this is your money you're talking about. You say you got goals, you say you got a why, you say you want to help your family, you say you want to help generations, then really do that and really be serious about what you're doing. And if you have the money to help invest, go ahead and do it. Take a stab at it. I won't discourage you.
So you did mention about modern ways of investing. I don't know if this is what you mean, but obviously someone else is curious to know about, the current trends about financial planning. Because obviously, things are not, a perfect example is when you think about, what's his name? Dave Ramsey, some people have seen different opinions about that. There's different ways of doing this. There's people like Kiyosaki that believe so much into real estate, and so there's different ways. But what are you guys, thought on the current trends? What do you think we should look out for? And I guess the second part of that question is the person wants to know is, should we embrace cryptocurrency? Which our next topic, December 19th, will be about crypto, but I'll let you guys take this for now.
I'll answer that first part. So what can current trends tell us about the future of financial planning? I think more people are going to start to embrace diversity in their financial plan, if they haven't already been doing that. Because I said it before, coronavirus came and it woke a lot of people up, realizing that you really can't just keep all of your eggs in one basket. So more people are going to be looking to put their money into other things. We're already seeing it into stocks, real estate, international investments, and many other vehicles to really grow their money. And that's going to cause the financial industry to have to come up with new innovations, new types of financial products. And what I'm looking for, what I'm really big on, is like low cost financial planning for the masses. So I think with all the new trends in finance, we're going to see a lot more of that. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Personally, historically, I've been more risk averse than ever. I think if you think about most people that work in the financial sector, not that they're risk averse, they're more traditional minded most times, and are a fan of sticking to the plan. I did Dave Ramsey's Peace University in my early 20s because it suited me at that time and where I was in that financial journey. I do think people tend to outgrow some of the messages from people like Dave Ramsey. Like I said, if you got to the point where you have discretionary income that is set aside for investing and is consistent, you know what I mean? You've mastered all the other levels, then I don't see a problem with embracing new new modern technologies like cryptocurrencies. I didn't even want to look at cryptocurrencies when it first started, to be honest. I was just like, I don't trust it. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not going to advise people to put large amounts of money into it. But I was listening to Joelle talk about going to a restaurant and looking at people using credit cards or using some form of plastic and not cash. You know what I mean? Realizing that cash is becoming obsolete at this point. And at this point, the way the health crisis is going on right now, who really even really wants to use cash? But most of the money is in it's a tangible thing that constantly changes and gets created. We didn't create it, right? So we don't know what it's going to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It may end up being a chip in our arm that we just got to wave, you know, at that point. And so are you going to say, no, cash is king? I want to use cash. Give me the dollar back. You know, we don't have control over that. So I think that part of surviving is part of being able to adapt to the changes that society is going on. So money may not be the same kind of money that we understood it to be years ago or coming up. So I think that we have to be people who can learn quickly, and we have to be people who can adapt. You know what I mean? Making sure that you're protected, making sure that your foundation is laid, making sure that you can afford and you have the discretionary income to invest. I do not see anything wrong with embracing cryptocurrency, even if I have not been a fan. And most of it is because I refused to look. So it wasn't like a lot of knowledge around it. But I think that if someone told me they wanted to invest in cryptocurrency, I'm not going to be the person to tell them, no, don't do it, because it's not going to work. You're going to lose your money. You know what I mean? People have already been making lots of money in cryptocurrencies. I don't know what that means for long term. I don't, however, think it's good for a long-term strategy. I don't know where we're going to go in terms of cryptocurrency, but I do think that being someone who can absorb information quickly, learn about things before you put your money in. Just like I said before, you shouldn't be investing your money in anything that you don't know about. So make sure that you're well informed and go ahead if you got the money. I do think we should embrace it.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Joe, I'm just curious to see what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so there's two parts, right? So what are the current trends that you're seeing in financial planning, financial wealth building? You're seeing that a lot more people are more conscious of their finances. You're seeing a lot more people conscious of investing. You're seeing a lot more people go on social media to get information. You're seeing people not necessarily reading books per se, or reading articles, or reading balance sheets and reading income statements. They want quick hits, right? If I can scroll on a page and do this on Instagram, why can't I do that with my stocks? I don't have time to sit and analyze. I just want something quick and easy, right? I want seamless for stocks. That's what a lot of, I think the trend is in terms of finance, in terms of accumulating wealth. And that's a double-edged sword. So you have a lot more people now who are learning about investing, but they think that they can use the same principles of their normal life for investing, right? They want the quick hit. They don't want the long-term effect. And what that can turn out to be, in my opinion, is what happened in 2000, right? Everybody and their mother was investing in everything.com, and then it blew up. So I think you're going to have issues with that. I think that a lot of people have been, I wouldn't say lied to, but I think a lot of people have this image of the stock market that it keeps going up. Those of us who've been investing for a long period of time know that 40% of the time it goes down, right? So when it does, it hurts sometimes too. And that's why I brought up what happened in February. I brought up what happened last week. All these people that you saw on social media talking about investing and they're experts, they got real quiet when the market goes down because it really hurts them. So I think that's the trend. I think the trend is going to be people looking into certain extremes to get that information. As it pertains to crypto, oh boy. All right. My personal opinion is always going to be this. If I can't understand it, I don't invest in it. Okay, me personally. I love the way Sharni said this. She said, I'm not going to stop you from investing in it. And she has her own risk tolerance as it pertains to it. For me, I don't understand it. And I think that any person, any investment, regardless if it's crypto, individual stocks, an ETF, a mutual fund, you should invest in it because you understand it, because it makes sense to you. Okay. The easiest thing to do is if you can ask the question why about 3 or 4 times for an investment and be able to articulate it, then I think it makes sense for you. And just because it makes sense for you doesn't mean it's going to be right. It doesn't mean it's going to go up, right? It just means it works for you. Now, when you look at cryptocurrency, look at it for what it is. When it started, it was more of a conservative, libertarian type move. What I mean by that, it was a way for it to go around the Federal Reserve, to go around banks, because we in this country have a fiat currency. A fiat currency is a currency that's not backed by anything. And on top of that, we keep adding to our debt, which means that our income or our dollar, for example, is losing its value. So the people who created, or the person who created cryptocurrency, decided to create something that you can barter with, because when the dollar goes away, if it ever does, they have a way to barter. Now, when this first came out, if you heard what Sharnese said, you stayed away from it because those were the conspiracy theorists. See, I remember that. I remember when people were talking about this and they were doing it in like the hills of Texas stuff. Like I remember this specifically. So what you're seeing now is that it's hit the mainstream. And you have to understand the news's job is to sell you the news. It's not to tell you the news, it's to sell you the news. I need to keep your attention. So they're going to put it on the screen. My personal belief is that if an investment makes it to the front page of the news, it's too late. Okay. So in my opinion, for anybody who wants to listen to me blow a bunch of hot air, if you want to get invested in crypto, do not invest all your money into it. Take 10% of your wealth, right, in terms of your portfolio, put it into it every month, ride the waves, right? Obviously, if an idiot like me was telling you don't invest in it when it was $10, don't listen to the idiot in me who's telling you don't invest it at 60,000, right? Like you could have made a lot of money. But you have to understand those same people who were investing in 2017 lost everything when it collapsed. The same people lost a ton of money last year when it hit its peak and then collapsed. A lot of people lost their money when it hit 60,000 and it started to drop. So you have to be able to ride the wave. You have to be able to go through that. But again, don't let anyone tell you that not to invest in it, but you should be able to answer any investment within at least 3 to 5 whys. Why is it going to work? Why? If you can get to the fifth one, fourth or fifth, and you feel pretty confident, okay. If you can't, then don't feel like you're forced to invest. You don't lose money if you're like not investing in crypto. I understand it's not the greatest thing to talk about at a barbecue. Like I'm pretty boring when we go to a barbecue, right? Everyone's coming up to you talking about what investments they have, and I'm like, yeah, I got my mutual fund, homie. I'm good. I like GE. Okay, cool. And that's like I'm boring when it comes to it. I get it. It doesn't sound cool, doesn't sound hip, but remember, a trend is a trend. It's not long lasting. My wealth that I want to create is generational. So no matter what trend comes along, that train is going to keep moving. It's going to have its ebbs and flows, but I'm going to keep moving forward, right? So that's my opinion. Don't let nobody tell you not to invest in crypto, but apologize in advance if you see me making fun of people who invested in crypto on Instagram and they lost their money, because it is kind of funny. But no, jokes aside, don't put all your money into it. Diversify.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Everything else just comes down to the goal, like we said earlier, setting foundation, knowing your goals. I think the last question we have from the week, and I guess, yeah, so the question just want to know is how do we connect with you guys and what services do you offer? Yeah, can people reach out to you guys if they need to for more information? Isa?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, yes. So you can connect with me on any social media platform, Instagram, Facebook. My name is my social media. You type it in, you can find me. I'll also type in my email address in the chat, as well as my contact information. as well as I'm doing a special deal with African Business Club. If you text me ABC, you'll get a discount on any of my services working with me. So I'll type all of my information in.
Thanks, excellent. Chinese?
Yeah, so same thing. You can find me on my social media platforms, Sharnice Miller on Facebook, at Sharnice.Nina on Instagram. I'm gonna link my email down below, which is cmiller@comcapcorp.com. And basically my financial coaching is really just personal finance coaching. Basically, I can help you go through a budget and personal finance statement creation, and also do some credit work on the side. But if you're in business, if you're an entrepreneur, I also do CFO, kind of contract CFO work, and forecasting and projecting for individuals. And yeah, that's it. I'm running a discount also for ABC Financial Community for the month of December, as everybody's getting their plans together. Because what we all said today is you got to have a plan. So I think this is the perfect time. Everybody likes making New Year's goals, so you might as well get your financial plans all shaped up right now since you're on this call. That's your homework. And that's it.
You can just put in a chat on the chat, so that we
Yeah.
can write it down. Joe, do you have anything?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Debt Free Joel on social media, on Instagram. I put a ton of information on there on investing, on saving, and most importantly on charity. As for right now, I do help people with their finances, either it be couples, whether it be individuals. I'm usually probably being used more as a sounding board more than anything. I noticed that a lot of people ask me questions about specific topics and they want to know a little bit more. The one thing that you're always going to get with me is the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. And I do that not because just to be an asshole. I do it because I treat you with the respect that you want to know. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to make $1 million tomorrow. I'm going to tell you this is how you build the wealth. I do try to make it a little bit humorous, on occasion, right? You can't just be serious all day long. So I try to, put posts that are pretty funny, this and the third, but that's what I do. I do try to help people with that. Now I'll say it nice and quietly that I haven't charged anybody. So feel free to hit up Sharnice or Isa. Okay. To hit them up first. They got businesses to run. But me personally, I've done it for free for a while. Like I said, I did it more from a charitable perspective during 2020. I think in the future, I will develop more of a business model and go from there. But for now, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out.
All right, thank you guys. I don't know if anyone on the chat on the call have a question before we end this. You can raise your hand real quick so we can or unmute yourself. And we can take maybe 1 or 2 questions before we end this call. Someone did ask, when can you consolidate debt? When should someone consolidate their debt?
Remember, I told you I was going to be honest, right? Never. No, I'm joking. And sorry, I didn't want to like put my face all the way in the screen as I'm typing. Debt consolidation, and if you guys want, feel free to reach out to me specifically. I don't want to take too much time with this, but debt consolidation makes sense, but you have to really look into it. What I mean by that is that they can charge you an interest rate that's actually more than what you paid. Debt consolidation doesn't mean that they get rid of your debt. Debt consolidation means they take all your debt and they spread it out over God knows how many years. So every month it looks like a lower amount of money, but you may be paying more in the long run. So you got to make sure that that's actually the best route for you. I know people who have, so maybe debt consolidation makes sense, but debt consolidation is not the end all be all. You still got to work to get out of the debt, right? Just because you consolidate it doesn't mean that you're done, right? It just means it's still there. It's just to spread about over the next 20 years versus it being 15. So just make sure, I'm not going to say don't do it, but make sure you educate yourself on it. Here's my advice. There's nothing in life that is free. So if it sounds too good, keep educating yourself. You'll find something wrong. That's when you know enough.
Right. And to add, once you've developed some healthy financial habits, because you can do debt consolidation and then find yourself right back into the same situation. So
there you go.
Sure. So yeah, you're right. All goes down to foundation. I think honestly, we could have even just ended that call from the first question about foundation and knowing your whys and your goals. And it's really all it comes down to. You can get out of that and consolidate whatever. But if you still don't have that foundation, the mindset is not right. You just keep finding yourself, like Isa said, in that same spot. Any other questions or anybody wants have anything they want to share before we end today? Okay, if not, we'll just move on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to share this book. I'm going to open my camera. They did talk about people want to educate themselves before they start investing. I think it's very important that people get well educated. There are a lot of opinions and experts or people who claim to be experts out there on social media, and people tend to get carried away without actually doing their real due diligence. The secrets of a lot of things are actually in the books and in the books of those who are tested, who have really done things for themselves. So I will I don't know if you can you see me? I can see myself.
Yes.
Can you see the book?
You may want to hold it up a little bit.
Everyone
more.
can see
The volatility.
The Volatility Shield.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of many books that I would suggest that whoever wants to invest, they need to read. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
There's actually one other book I would say as well. Here's a fun fact. One of my favorite finance books has basically no numbers. It's The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. I have told that book, I will scream it in people's faces until my dying breath. Because that book teaches you more about the behavior about money rather than any financial concepts. If you can understand, it's a very short book, I think 136 pages. It's written in story form. You don't have to deal with any complex, but it deals with the behavior towards money. So if anybody wants to read that book and talk about it, I can rant about it for days. Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason.
it's a classic. The audio is even on YouTube. You can listen to it while you drive. I would recommend that book any day, and I like the theatrical setting.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, definitely. One of my favorite books also, definitely. Yeah. So I think thanks everyone. Oh, I'm so sorry guys. Before we end, we always end our sessions with something called Common Sense Finance. So I'm sure everybody here already knows what that is. So we'd let our speakers give us each one Common Sense Finance tip to for us to go with.
I'll go. There's this phrase that is stuck in my head, and it's called, "A part of all I earn is mine to keep." So that's what I would say. commit a specific percent of your money that will always go into your freedom fund, and your freedom fund could be anything that you get into. You get whatever you decide with your financial planner or whoever you're working with. Just make sure you put that specific amount of money in there every single month for yourself. That's all I have.
Yeah, I just thought of this on the fly, just from trying to go into the theme that I feel like we've had here. If it don't make sense, don't drop any cents.
Oh wow.
That's it. Mic drop.
Oh,
that's bars.
well, first of all, I said took my quote, so I can't use that one. Charnice just dropped the freestyle, so I'm embarrassed. No, I look. I love the quote, "A part of all that you earn is yours to keep." If you watched any videos
okay. Why is he giving you thank you? I don't understand.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, maybe somebody's on mute. But a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. That is my favorite quote. The one thing that I would say as something a little different than that as well is pay yourself first. When you get paid, you pay a bunch of people you don't like. And for some reason, we have this thing in our brain that after we pay a bunch of people we don't like, we pay ourselves. No, make yourself a priority. Pay yourself first.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah, I know Joe likes like I saw his reaction. He was actually clapping for you, Isa. So thank you so much, everyone.
My bad.
Thanks for joining us. It's a great session. I've learned a lot myself, and I hope everybody else have learned one or two things. Our upcoming sessions for people that just first time here, African Business Club, our goal is to normalize financial literacy by sharing information and just education. So we have these sessions bi-weekly, but eventually will be monthly, just talk about different ways, of financial literacy. So December 19th, we have, I know we ended with crypto and the new updates. We have updates on cryptocurrency coming up on December 19th. This should be a great session just for us to know. For people that want to understand it, I know there's a buzz right now. So why not bring it up here so we can have people to just give us updates and maybe teach us how to look into some of these things. And we did a session back last year on our YouTube page. If you go check it out, our speaker is actually coming back as one of our panelists for December 19th. He went through in details, the background information on crypto, how it started, what's used for, and why he thinks it will be something that will be around for long. And then January 30, we have our financial planning masterclass. Just like how we're ending the year with this session to teach financial planning or wealth management, we think it would be great to start the year and just to see where everybody is, have a goal setting, and start the year right. So join us on December 19th and January 30. It will be a masterclass, so it'll be like a 2-3 hour session. We'll go in full details on things, or not to just get the year right. And with that said, I'll say thanks everyone. We always say we are all kings and queens, so please let's treat each other as such. Let's respect one another. I was talking to Chinese earlier, and Joe, we are all we got. Nobody's coming to save us. So let's just look out for one another, share information. This is part of the reason why we have this community, so we can all just learn from one another. So with that said, thanks everyone. Thanks Joe. Thanks Chinese. Thanks Isa. And thanks to everyone on this call tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Remember, y'all, free to make free.
You guys are awesome.